Next topic I know that Andy is particularly buzzing to talk about is, are Tottenham the real deal, gents? We've got, what, 7 weeks into the season. I feel like we spoke about it in the summer a little bit. And now that we can kind of see the cogs are turning, the Mourinho machine is clicking into place at Spurs. Andy, title talk is starting to grow around Tottenham. I'm just going to just say simply, are they for real? Are they title contenders this season?
Yeah, I love this time of year because we do this every year. And it's always with Spurs as well, isn't it? Because they'll get off to a decent little start. You'll look at the squad and think, okay, there could be something there. In lieu of actually answering the question, I'm going to put out the evidence and I'll let you two guys kind of kick it back and forth. Is it a yes? Is it a no? Because, I think everybody can probably figure out where I'm going to fall. But if we go back a couple months to the start of the season and ask ourselves, all right, what has to happen for Spurs to have a chance to challenge for the title this season? Well, with kind of two nailed on favorites to start the season for the title, the best and most important player on the defending champions, maybe he doesn't play most of the season. Maybe he picks up a big injury, and that kind of brings them down a peg. And last season's runners up, let's say they start, kind of for their standard, tragically slow and poor. Maybe they've got a bunch of injuries as well. And so that opens up the field a little bit for someone to step in. You need an opportunity to begin with. So what does that tell you? Okay, somebody's going to step in. Maybe it's Spurs. Then on the Spurs side of things, what do they have to do? Harry Kane has to be healthy for the first time in almost 5 years. He's got to be scoring goals. All right. They need a second consistent source of goals in that team as well. It can be Gareth Bale. It can be Son Heung-min. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg needs to channel the ghost of Sandro Ranieri. Now, there is a name that I've not said for a long time or thought about, but he came to me this week as I was thinking about the Spurs team, and that's who Højbjerg reminds me of in that Spurs team. He needs to own that midfield going both ways. So far, so good for Spurs. And then last but not least, I think they need to be to defend like a classic Mourinho team. And that part hasn't happened yet. Now, it still could. There's plenty of time left in the season, plenty of points still to be won. But the point is, they came into the season needing kind of a half dozen really big, important things to go their way, internally and externally. And we're 2 months into the season, and I'd say they're about 80% of the way to those things happening at this point.
Nick, Andy mentioned there about defensively. I mean, I'm watching this Tottenham team, especially against Burnley and Brighton the last few games, and they found a way. They have that extra edge, the grittiness with Højbjerg in midfield. They're just getting over the line. Of course, having Gareth Bale to bring off the bench to score the winner against Brighton, that's not a bad sub to have. But for you, is that going to be the difference here? Because we see Mauricio Pochettino on TV here in England this week. Lovely bloke, did wonderful things with Tottenham, but maybe just didn't have that extra nous to get them to the trophy they wanted to win, to the title, to get further in Europe each season. So is the Mourinho factor, Nick, for you, is that key to all of this and unlocking Tottenham's potential?
For sure. And for all the headaching perhaps about their defense, they've allowed 9 goals. One was that stupid penalty against Newcastle that shouldn't have been. 3 were from a West Ham anomaly, including a rocket at the end. So they've come back to win a couple times. They haven't lost from a winning position. Those are all Mourinho things. I mean, they're soccer things too. I'm not trying to give him too much credit, but look, it's going to fall apart at some point with him, but it doesn't have to be this season. It doesn't have to be next one. He's still a brilliant mind. He, in that documentary, he went out of his way to basically tell these guys they needed to be jerks. And you are definitely seeing a bit more of that.
Absolutely. And Nick, I know there's something we've spoken about as well, but they've got some huge games coming up, right? In November and December.
Unreal.
The games they have coming up now. This is really the crux of it. We're going to find out if they can sustain this title push, right?
Yeah, what's the target for points? That's what I want to know. Home to City, at Chelsea versus Arsenal. They could go into that game against City after the international break in first place if they beat West Brom this weekend and Liverpool drops points at all because of superior goal differential. So the target will then be on their back. And look, Mourinho knows about being in first place as well. So it'll be very interesting. What's the target for points?
Andy, I don't want to use the term Spursy too much, but what is different about this Spurs team in your opinion? To wrap up this segment, what do you feel is different about watching Tottenham this season so far?
Yeah, I think you alluded to it. They seem to, at least early on, have a bit of a different mentality, and they don't seem to fold in the difficult situations that they have done so in the past. And that's not a slight on Maurizio Pochettino. I guess that's a credit to Jose Mourinho. I can't believe I'm sitting here doing that at this point.
Steady
I know, but I think you do have to give him credit, because that was the thing for a number of years. When you mentioned Spursy, it was always the big moment, the bright lights. Everybody's looking at them, expecting something of them. The worst thing you could do to Spurs for a long time was expect something of them, and then they would just always fail to deliver. It's like they never really expected it of themselves, and it was just kind of happening to them rather than they were making it happen. And it feels like they're a little bit more kind of in control of what their destiny is going to be for this season. And now that has the potential to blow up at some point, given the way that Mourinho has, kind of conducted himself at recent jobs. But I think there is a different mentality, and Harry Kane being healthy, I keep coming back to that. If he plays 35 games this season, they are absolutely in the title race. There is no way that they're not in the top 4 if he plays 35 games, because he's going to get 20, 25 goals. Him and Son together might get 40 between the two of them.
I feel like we're going to be talking about a lot of title contenders this season in the next few months, because there's a lot of teams jostling for position there. Chelsea, even Arsenal are making the stance. And of course, Liverpool, Man City are the favourites. But there's a lot of teams there just in that pack underneath that really could make a run if, as we think, Man City are going to be inconsistent, Liverpool struggling at the back. There's an opportunity there for sure. So Tottenham are playing West Brom this weekend. That's another game where they really need to roll their sleeves up and do the dirty work. And that's the kind of games where you win by 1 goal, you sneak it 1-0, 2-1, like they have been, that really win you the title. So let's wait and see what happens. But we'll have you covered with anything to do with the title race and, of course, Tottenham over at ProSoccerTalk on NBCSports.com.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe. Make sure you subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and always join us every weekend at 7 a.m. on NBCSN for Premier League mornings. Plus, make sure you subscribe to Peacock Premium as well, where you can watch exclusively live 175 games and same-day on-demand replays of all 380 Premier League matches as well.